Here we go.
Okay, we are live on Facebook. Hi guys, how are you doing today?
Good.
Good.
How are you?
Doing well, as good as can be. Yeah, so thanks for joining us on this panel today. For everyone watching at home, this is our Mandy panel event for safety on set, making films and TV in a COVID compliant workplace. I know a lot of people have all sorts of questions because it's a very unknown territory with COVID at the moment. So we have these two great people on our talk today that are going to answer your questions and hopefully provide some clarity and information. This event is hosted by Mandy.com. For anyone that doesn't know, Mandy is a platform where you can have any creative find work and find opportunities, and for productions and projects to find the cast, crew, and anything and everything in the creative field. So thank you guys for coming on. We're here today with Alex Pollak. He's the CEO of Paradox. They're a worldwide medical service with a collaboration of doctors and paramedics, and they serve clients in a bunch of industries, including TV and film. They've been returning on sets now as set medics and COVID compliance officers on all sorts of size productions. And then we have Marc Auerbach, and he was a location manager, got COVID for over 2 months, which was a fun time. And he used that as an opportunity to basically founded a company called Safe Production Services, which combines COVID safety and infection control with the traditional location services to create a seamless experience between the location and cast and crew to have the safest experience possible. And I'm Jess. Hi, I'm here with Mandy.com. I'm also a producer, so I know from that standpoint what questions people have and can help answer things there. So yeah, anything you guys want to add about yourselves?
It's nice to be back actually inside on a Zoom. I never thought I'd say that in the last couple of months from the morning that I've had. So I'm very appreciative just to be hiding and talking to you guys right now.
Yeah, and I'm stuck in I'm actually on a set and I stole a little room. So I'm sorry if people do walk in, but I don't think they would. They said I have the room for an hour. So
yeah,
I do apologize.
You guys have been very busy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that you're busier now than before COVID?
I mean, for me, literally the last 20 days have been the busiest 20 days of my life. I've never experienced anything like it. It's kind of odd from going from self-isolation with COVID and trying to get over that. And there was no middle point between that and suddenly, oh, wow, I'm as busy as I'm ever going to be. But, I think I'm very grateful for it. And there's a certain responsibility that comes with the opportunity to go back to work that we have. For many people, as we know, they don't have that opportunity if their industries are still closed down. So that's part of the kind of reason I'm so passionate about this, that we are fortunate enough to go back and, make dollars and pounds and do the things that we love to do. But there is a responsibility to ourselves, to our crew members, our fellows, and the city in which we work to do it properly.
Yeah. Marc, sorry.
Go for it. No, sorry.
Marc, do you want to go into a little bit what brought about Safe Production Services and what exactly you guys are doing right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, interestingly enough, I started doing undergrad virology last year, and it's just been, it's a weird thing. Pre-pandemic, it was just something that I've been interested in. So, and of course, I didn't know this was coming down the pipe. Been doing being a location manager now for 6 or 7 years, had my own locations business for about 4 of them, mainly based in New York, done some stuff in LA, Miami, and around Florida. But, once I started seeing the news and some of the reports coming out of China in November, December, it was concerning enough to me that I saw some kind of writing on the wall. And it didn't take a crystal ball to know that with the transport opened up as it was, it could have been a problem coming out our way. So I spoke to a couple of people that I work with about it and decided that it was worth investigating, doing courses, looking into OSHA. And for those that don't know, that are outside of America, OSHA is the body, the organization that protects health and safety at work and creates standards for how people operate in general industries and specific industries. So we started researching it. doing the courses, my partner and I, Russell and I, and then it got worse and worse. Then I got sick, and then I was even more determined. But you know, I was sick for a period of time where I was out of action. As soon as I was able to concentrate and regain some energy again, I just carried on with the studying, and we started putting the idea together. I spoke to the mayor's office. I started speaking to organizations that are very much involved with New York film production, getting their thoughts about it. And it just became really obvious that people were nervous to go back, but desperate to go back as well, because things had been shut down. And it was really about, how do we responsibly go back? How do we protect and care for one another, care for our industry? And as I said before, respect the city that's done so much to try and save lives and help us get back to some relative normality.
Yeah, and I know you guys are both based in New York City. Alex, do you want to let those viewing this at home know what territories you cover? Because I know you have both set medics and COVID compliance officers that are back at work right now.
Sure. So our company, usually this time of the year, of the summer, I would not have time for a call, because we do a lot of music festivals and sporting events throughout the country. Unfortunately, our last music festival was about 35,000 people in Florida right before COVID. Came back to New York. A lot of us worked the FEMA task force. We were hit really hard in New York. And then we started having events start canceling, especially our music festivals, and big sporting events started canceling pretty rapidly. Like, it was just disheartening waking up in the morning and looking through my emails, like, this festival is canceled, this festival is canceled. We thought we had a slight chance of possibly saving the rest of the summer towards the end, because they were pushing it off, seeing where COVID was going. So I actually thought that we would shut down our business, which almost doubled in size this year. We usually set up field hospitals basically at big sporting events or music festivals. So we were working basically throughout COVID. So we were lucky enough, whether it was with FEMA or with any of the, just because we're a medical company and this is a medical worldwide crisis. But then with events, we're so heavily based in events, I really didn't know if it was worth it. My policy was up. My med mal insurance policy, which is a tremendous expense, was due for renewal April 15th, which was kind of that tipping point. And I was like, wow, the events are getting canceled. Like, should we continue working? Like, what should we do? So throughout the task force, I was busy. We had our staff busy. But then it sort of came to a standstill because everything now is shut down. And then recently, as the phases started reopening in New York, and they were doing a pretty good job now of maintaining and, you know, keeping the rates pretty low, we started working actually with the mayor's office in New York as part of the advisory board for phase 4. And we started phase 1 with construction sites being open. We were doing health and safety checks and construction site medics. And then right now we're super busy, and Marc knows this as well, with the film and production industry. So in phase 2, there were very, very small sets, but companies that would normally not have a set medic or the budget for a set medic, like still shoots of four people. We've done some as small as 4 people, now have a COVID compliance officer and a set medic on site. And it's been the need. So we're not busier, that's for sure, because on a typical weekend in the summer, we sometimes have 3 simultaneous festivals in 3 different states. We'll have about 200 people working at each festival. So we would have about 800 to 900 people working a weekend. We're not there, but we have about 300 different sets or production or construction sites that we have medical staff that would never have focused and had an actual dedicated medical person. There's someone like that there now. So we are actually, we never really took a pause.
Cool. Well, let's dive right into questions. I know that our viewers at home have a million. We get back to sets and what's it like being on set. So first few questions probably for Alex, but Marc, feel free to chime in. A lot of people are asking, can they use rapid tests for testing their cast and crew?
My opinion is there is no such thing as a rapid test. Anything that's too fast is not good. We've had rapid testings ourselves. We've tried a couple of different options. We decided not to go with it. There's a couple of reasons why. First of all, it provides a false sense of security. So until the rapid testing is 100% accurate, which there isn't really anything out there that's 100% accurate, either in 100% positive or 100% negative. So you're either getting false positives or false negatives. And what it does is, if you do a rapid test, it leads to a false sense of security. So everything else goes out the window. They're like, oh, we all came back negative, so now we don't have to wear a mask or socially distant or wash our hands. So a lot of people want to see it. A lot of artists only want to be in a place where everyone got a rapid test, but that's not really an answer, because it's just not there yet. There is no such thing as a rapid good test.
I know you shared with me the statistics of the accuracy. Do you want to share that just so people realize the difference?
There are so many different types. I've heard of ones that you can even mail. They ship you and you can mail it in. Basically, the only really good tests are the PCR tests that go to a lab. And there's antigen tests, there's IgG tests that are pretty rapid, but I don't have like hard statistics on how bad they are. I could just tell you firsthand, since we stopped offering it, like after a week, I could tell you, and so they find someone else to do it. So we'll be like the set medic on site and have urgent care come in, or a doctor, and administer the rapid tests. And I've seen it cause havoc with either false positives or false negatives. And it's just, it's better not to take a test, honestly. I know it's not what everyone wants to hear, but there really is, the technology's not there. They are coming out with molecular rapid tests, which I'm hoping is much more accurate, because that would solve a lot of problems, but it's not there yet.
I know when you do the lab tests, all the guidelines that are coming out are also saying to get tested throughout the shoot. So a question for you guys is, should you be doing the rapid test throughout? How often are you seeing for the sets that you've been on? And basically how often, and how much do tests cost? Because that's a factor that everyone's wondering. What's your recommendations revolving around that?
So I have a pretty good answer. So depending on turnaround times for the PCR tests, which can vary, right? So if you take a real test, goes to the lab. If I'm severely sick, I have COVID, and I cough or expose someone, I cough on you, and you freak out and run to the hospital and say, hey, I have COVID, and you run to go get a test, right? Get sent to the lab. The probability of you showing up positive within that hour, 24 hours is very, very slim. As it progresses, the next day, it might show up a little bit more. After about 72 hours or 3 days, then it would show up almost 100%. It will show up positive on your test. So if everyone, let's say, flies in for a shoot, quarantines for 3 days, gets a test, waits for their test results back, that's great. But as a backup is to do rapid testing, just in case the first real test didn't come through and you had a false negative, then doing the rapid testing is a good idea, just in case it missed someone. So it's like a backup safety plan, but it's not the best. And most people, I think it's up to production, how many times people want to get tested. Again, I don't think the rapid tests are reliable, but it might catch something that the first initial PCR test might have missed.
Marc, do you have anything to add from what you've seen?
Yeah, it's the biggest conundrum facing those of us that are in the business of helping productions plan this. We've done probably about 14 shoots now in New York, but for the most part, these have been print and commercial jobs that tend to be 1, 2, 3 days. And as you guys have pointed out, many of these have massively reduced crew, because we were doing the 10 maximum to begin with, and now we're consulting for very big TV shows that tend to want to shoot for 6, 7 days, and therein lies the problem, as Alex said. So the best that we can offer right now is having a sort of umbrella that does everything we can possibly do. And so, yeah, basing the foundation on a pre-production PCR test, having a rapid test machine on hand the whole time to top up what you're doing, with the hope, as Alex said, that you catch something that you may not have done. I mean, the big problem is the turnaround time for the PCRs there's a lag time. So if I test on Monday but don't get those results by Thursday, then how do I know that my set was safe for those 2-3 days in between? So we have to do everything. And the other point that Alex made is it's not just about the reliance on the testing. It is everything. It's all the protocols. There can be no weak points. I mean, the one thing that you always hear ICU doctors will talk about is like there can be no room for a mistake in terms of their personal health and their personal sanitation. That's why they wear the suits they wear traditionally. It's like that, you make one mistake, that could be the mistake that causes a problem for you. And as we know with COVID, the potential then is not just for how that impacts one individual's health, but your community, your work colleagues, etc. So it's a long answer to a problem that we have, but we're doing the best that we can with the resources that are around. And we really hope that technology and science is given a little bit of an opportunity to catch up so that we can find something with pretty much 100% reliability that we can get the answers in pretty much real time. Then we're really in business. So the idea of being back to business, we're somewhat carrying up rocks up a big hill right now. So yes, we're grateful, but we're really not quite back in business yet as we need to be and want to be.
Yeah, that was perfect, Mark. You captured it perfectly. That's what I was trying to say. You said it more comprehensively.
Several people have asked, and I see some of the questions coming in about COVID compliance officer, what it actually means. What do you do to become a COVID compliance officer? Do you need to have a medical background? What are your opinions, thoughts? I know you both have probably different points of view.
I'm going to let Mark actually take this. The only thing is that I can tell you is, because I'll let Mark answer most of this question, because we hate the compliance piece, honestly. But I just want to tell you a live story that happened to us yesterday. We're sort of doubling set Medica COVID compliance, and everyone's super heightened and nervous on set, and we were doing a shoot, and someone came to us thinking that they might have had COVID, and we did a full assessment, like we would normally do, like what are your signs and symptoms, and went through everything. We're like, it sounds like you're actually pregnant. And she went and took a pregnancy test, and she's like, you're right. So right away she was sick, and she was like, oh my God. I'm like, I must have COVID, because she was like nauseous. She was vomiting, and we were like, this does not sound like, we sent her, she wanted to go get one anyway, but she went and ran and got a pregnancy test and was pregnant. So having a medical person there was a great thing to have, because we were able to field that question and sort of say, don't panic, we don't think you have COVID. It's something else. But let Mark take the lead on the rest of the compliance part.
Yeah, it's again the evolving nature of not only the crisis, but the response we've had in trying to get back to some semblance of normality. It says it all. This has all happened in such an incredibly short amount of time. And I'm always of the opinion that, we need to let science catch up. And that kind of goes for the training. There are a bunch of courses out there. Some I think are better than others. Some are more comprehensive. Some give you a better education. But there has to be a strong distinction, and Alex makes a point. I would never turn around and call ourselves medical anything right now. We understand production, and we are there specifically for COVID infection control. As the world gets back to work, maybe that will be different types of infections that we have to worry about. But if somebody breaks their arm on set, or if somebody has a heart attack, the last person I hope they come and talk to is me or one of my staff. We don't at any point offer medical advice or get into that. And I think Alex is feeling the same way on the other side of the fence, that he would like to stick to what he's good at. And bear in mind, Alex's staff have been training and coming from a medical background for a lot longer than we have doing the COVID compliance, even if we're trying to get as educated as possible. There has to be a humility about, okay, we're not experts, because we get that all the time. What makes you an expert? It's like, well, I didn't say I was an expert. I'm just doing my best to gather data, keep in touch with scientists. We have consultants within our company that are either managing ICUs, they're emergency medicine people. We have a guy that survived Ebola. He's now treating COVID all across the country. We're doing everything we can to look at decent sources of information, very much science-based, not doing the research ourselves. That's not what we do. We're gatherers of information, and we're doing the best that we can. to act as a conduit for that information and whatever the cutting edge thinking is. I think we have a responsibility to not be in the opinions game. I think that's very, very dangerous. If you haven't been to college for 7 years, you shouldn't have an opinion on this right now. And I have not been to college and studied this. So I try and keep my opinion out of the way.
Let's go into the onset aspect of what happens, because I know that's what a lot of people have questions about. So one of the questions we got in advance was from Ken saying, what is the protocol if one person shows up to set with a fever? Does the whole set shut down, or is that one person sent home and replaced?
Alex, do you want to go, or shall I go with that one?
Mark, you could take it.
I mean, if that person has entered the set in terms of the zonal system that we talk about, and been within contact for, let's say, over 8-9 minutes and in close physical proximity, we would have to take a look at whether that set has been compromised. That says a point about how you set up the check-in area. So given the right location, and this, again, it opens up for everything you're trying to solve, there's another conundrum. So that's why when we do any job, we insist that to take on a job, we have to have done a site physical inspection. So it's beyond what we would normally do for a location scout, but we go there, we look at the entrances, the exits. Are there multiple human beings sharing that entrance? How do we know what the sanctity of each of that location is and what has happened when we are not there? So in a perfect world, we would have a medical check-in area that's away from that set, such that everyone comes in a staggered formation with staggered call times. I know that's a problem for producers with their schedules and shot counts, but they would come in a staggered formation, socially distanced. We would have the information of their questionnaire at hand because they had to have done that before they'd even come to set the day before. We would do a temperature check, but also there's a sort of, a visual check. Does this person look like they've got symptoms? And if we thought they were sick, or if they reported them sick, obviously we wouldn't let them pass the medical check-in desk. If they had gone on to set and then reported symptoms, me personally, I wouldn't take any risk. I would shut that set down, which also it leads me into the point where studios and facilities themselves that are offering the compliance and safety, I believe, is inappropriate because they've got skin in the game. They are not impartial, and there's an inherent bias, I believe. And it's not just because it's my company. There should be third-party companies providing this service that can stand up and go, this is not safe. This needs to be shut down right now. It's a tough call.
I'm going to throw a quick question over to Alex that just came in, also from Ken. Does the COVID compliance officer have the power to stop a production, regardless of if the producer or director have their own opinions of what should happen?
No, we're not security. We don't even, we've worked with some big construction sites where, the temperature checking is basically helps mitigate some of the risk. It definitely does not eliminate some of the risk. So, there's been a whole debate whether temperature checks work or not. Honestly, if you're super sick and you're like a super spreader, it'll pull out it'll catch some of the sick people to pull them out of the mix of coming into a site. When we received our first contract from a huge construction company, we were literally just taking temperatures. They sent us a 68-page contract of how we're ensuring that the work site is COVID free. And we're just taking temperatures, like the buck stops here. And we don't even tell you when the temperature, what the threshold is. People put the threshold out, what's considered a low-grade fever is 100.4 or 38 degrees Celsius. And that's an internal temperature. That's a core temperature. So, there's a degree of variance when you're taking an infrared gun, or whether you're using an expensive, thermal imaging camera machine. Some of them are better, some of them are worse. But there's a degree of variance with it. And we're like, if they want to set the parameter at 100.5 and let people enter, that's not our call. We're not production. We're not the city. We can just relay that information. But we would feel uncomfortable taking on a job where they say, oh, we're just going to let everyone walk in and not wear a face mask or be socially distant. Like, I've turned down a few events already where they really had nothing in mind in terms of protocols. They just wanted to have a presence there and basically say, oh, we have a medical presence. Like, what we can throw their event. So I don't think a COVID compliance officer should have the ability to shut down a set. I think it's a responsible production and responsible people that have to make that decision, because I don't want to be in the place where I shut down $1 million shoot because, and I was wrong because someone had maybe a temperature or looked sick. That's not really, I don't think it's my call, but I think getting into bed with someone, if that's the right, with a company right now, it's tricky. You have to rely that they're plan on doing the right thing.
I want to focus a little on lower budget projects, because we do have a lot of employers on Mandy that are for those short films and don't necessarily have that huge budget. When you have a big budget, you can have a unique lodging for the project and make sure that things can be as tested as regularly as possible and can be as safe as possible. Without that budget, it's a little difficult. I know people are being creative with how they film. One of those things has been using remotely, someone directing and producing to try and limit the amount of people on set. A question that we got previous to this event was, if you have a one-man crew that's doing everything and having 1 or 2 people of talent on camera, do you still need a COVID compliance officer? Do you still need the testing? Do you still need all that if you're maintaining social distancing?
It's a tough one. I mean, notwithstanding budgetary constraints, the real trouble about this is we are all doing our jobs on set through muscle memory and habit. And so whether you're camera, DP, focus puller, hair makeup, whatever it is, it's like these are habits that have been ingrained for a very, very long time. And it's very hard now to try and get people to change those habits and to keep practicing the things when they're trying to do their job. It's a big ask. My hope is that as people get more practice and experience at this, they learn a new muscle memory, which might be don't touch your face, make sure you keep your mask on. But right now, if anything, the COVID compliance officer is not there to guarantee anyone's safety, but I feel like that person is there to try and encourage a change in behavior, a change in consciousness. And we are finding that is tricky to maintain. And irrespective of what people want to do before the shoot starts and their ability to want to sign on to protocols when the working day starts and they kick back into what they do and what their job is, it's very, very difficult to expect them to maintain this awareness and consciousness about these brand new behaviors and protocols when they're trying to get their job done. It's a tricky one. I mean, my gut feeling is wherever possible, yes, we're working with some indie films that are coming up, and we'll say, look, I'd rather, if we can afford the resources, help you out, and we'll work the budget out and have you guys safe, and maybe come back and there'll be a bigger production and we can get the proper fees than have people do stuff that's dangerous.
Awesome, thanks. So with Mandy, I oversee things on the crew side of the East Coast in the US, and I talk to a lot of the employers that use the platform. And from that, I've gotten a lot of different perspectives of creative ways people are trying to be safe on set without the big budgets. One of those is using family members of each other, or best friends that are living together and people that are already in quarantine. I know on our platform on the actor side, we've had a lot of castings for real people at home because of COVID safety, but bringing those people onto set, if they've been at home and they've already been interacting with each other, do you think that that's any safer?
People, personal, something that happened to me yesterday, had a very anxious family. Their daughter was out partying, came in contact with, all her friends came back, tested positive for COVID. She came home. She was home for a day, and they put her in a room, made her sort of self-quarantine herself, and made her get a test. It took about 4 days to get the test back. And unfortunately, 2 days ago, I had to inform them, yes, your daughter is COVID positive. It's now on day 9, and the family obviously freaked out, and they all wanted to get tested. But basically what happened was she came home, she was out partying with her friends. they basically self-quarantined her as a punishment, which was a great idea, and made her get a test. So now it's already like almost, she's been home 9 days since she got that first contact. And, she's been in her room. They haven't let her leave her room. So I don't think they all came in for tests yesterday, actually. And honestly, I don't think that, they did a good job. So I don't think she really, from what it sounds like, as long as they stuck to everything that they said they did, then it sounds like she must probably not get the rest of the family sick. So I'm actually waiting to see if their results, to see if they actually come back positive, because I'm just curious. So I've had instances where families been living together, and one person, we've tested the whole family, and one person comes up positive. So I don't know if it's like better. I mean, I guess so. Maintaining social distancing is hard, especially if you're all living together. It's a tough question to answer.
Yeah.
It's definitely better for people who are always together and they're going to be together anyway. It's sort of safer but who knows who's passing it to who.
I know when people try to social distance as much as possible on set, there's some roles that are really, really hard to do that with. One of those is a makeup artist, because you're face to face with talent. So what I've heard with some productions is having everyone has to social distance and, practice, the masks, the gloves, everything like that. And they're specifically testing the makeup artists and the talent. And that way they are saving some money there. We actually have on Mandy.com, we have a guide that we created. We always are posting different guides with resources for our members. One of them's for makeup artists, and with COVID, how do you maintain safety there? Something that has actually been suggested is you can get hired and from a distance tell the talent what to do, how to put the makeup on, without having to be face to face. So that's another way to help reduce those costs. Do you recommend that, do you think that the talent being tested is that they'll be safe enough if the crew's not tested? The answer could be no, just simply no, but.
I mean, you still, no matter what, even with the testing, unless you create a bubble, which is you quarantine everyone for 14 days, test everyone with a true PCR test, get the results. That's basically the only way you can basically make sure that the safe is completely set. To have everyone do that is a tremendous cost. It's very, very hard to do that. It's no matter what, who's gotten tested, you still have to be careful. So I know with hair and makeup, they're very close to talent. Let's say a talent's sick, and usually it's the other people who want to be tested, who they're going to put through the torture of getting your brain tickled, as they call it. So, but let's say the hair and makeup person was tested and is negative, but then the artist that they're doing hair and makeup for wasn't tested and is sick, and can get the hair and makeup person sick. So I don't think there's a specific role that they should just test one person, whether it's the artist or the hair and makeup person. I think everyone should be tested if it's possible before, and then just use safety precautions. It's hard. It's hard for hair and makeup people. I know I didn't look at your guide, I apologize, but wearing a face shield and a mask and while you're doing makeup is just, it's not comfortable. And if you're wearing glasses like Marc does, it fogs up. It's hard to do your job. Do
you want to share your glasses advice that you gave me with for DPs, if they have a mask, but they wear glasses?
So that's actually one of the things that we're finding the hardest is the photographers. They complain that it fogs up the camera if they're wearing the lens, not for glasses, but it fogs up the camera. So they're always pulling the mask down. But we had a older gentleman come onto set. His wife was being filmed, and it was their first time out of the house basically since lockdown. And he was having a hard time wearing the mask with the glasses, and he was wearing a cloth mask, sort of like this. And
I have to answer an emergency call from set. I'm sorry. I'll be 1 minute. I'll be right back.
No problem.
Sorry.
Okay. So we actually told him there's double-sided tape. You could put some double-sided tape under it, and it won't let the air up. But actually, the proper N95 masks with the with the metal piece on the top. If you just put your glasses on top of that, it usually helps. It's uncomfortable, unfortunately, but a ventilator is more uncomfortable. So it sucks wearing a mask, but you need to wear one. And if it fogs up your glasses, I mean, get LASIK, I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a few questions that I definitely want to make sure Marc's here for, so we'll wait and hold off for those. I keep having a bunch of questions come in, I see, about being a COVID compliance officer. Some people say they're EMTs in their state. What do they do? I know there's the online tests. Apart from that, some people want to know what the actual responsibility of the compliance officer is, and do you need a SET medic and a compliance officer? Is a SET medic good enough? And tying that in as a big, long question, someone asked, can you just on a small budget project have someone on your set learn what to do and have them double their role?
So right now we're doing, I don't know about official courses, like there is no like OSHA or regulatory class that I know of. I've had some requests from productions that said, I want you to take this specific COVID compliance class, and they just send us a link and we took it, whatever. I don't think there's an official rollout there yet or certification for it. I'm curious to see when one does come out and who comes out with it that's like official for that industry, for the film and production industry. I would love to get certified to do that. I think the benefit of what we're doing now is our set medics are doubling as COVID compliance officers, which is sort of, I'm still hesitant to use that term. And it's more because, especially in New York and California, where we're doing most of the set medic stuff, it's because we've been around COVID. We've seen it. I've seen lots of people die. I know 6 people personally who died of COVID. You know, we know what precautions to take. We know when someone looks sick, and we know when someone is just pregnant and nervous that they have COVID. So we've been doing the double duty. A lot of times it's, we'll do the temperature checks, health questionnaires, and then be a set medic like a regular set medic, you know, in case something, an injury or illness happens on set. But also we'll walk around and, you know, tell people, hey, here's a reminder, you know, you just ate lunch, you know, put up your mask, you forgot it down, or you just walked out of the bathroom, your hands don't look wet, go wash your hands, you guys are standing too close together. You know, there's just things, you know, you might not necessarily need a medical person to do that, but people who have experience wearing PPE, donning PPE, knowing how to take it off, having someone on set that knows how to do that is, I guess, a heads a little bit better than someone who's never worn a mask till COVID or known anything about transmission of disease or anything. And I'm not an infectious disease. I'm not a doctor. I don't know everything about it, but I know the precautions to take to not spread or get COVID.
An interesting question that came in from Kimberly was, how do you navigate testing delays if you need those negative tests before people can shoot and the tests haven't come back yet?
That's a very tough question. Honestly, we've had a really bad experience. We personally weren't doing really testing. We were sending them to a lab through a third party. They were good tests, reliable tests. We stopped even offering them as a service or even recommending it. It got pretty consistent though with the turnaround time. So we were getting them in about 72 hours up until this week. Then there was a lot of spikes and national shortage of the reagent. So, you know, it delayed it. And we actually have some people that are like, we need to start shooting, but we need the results. And basically we're at the mercy of the labs. So if there's, you know, a outbreak or a shortage or something in another area, it could affect the turnaround time. So if you need to have a hard date when you need it set, it's really hard to guarantee to get test results back in time. It's a very tough question.
Yeah. I know I see someone made a comment about producers just adding new responsibilities to PAs. I mean, I've heard that, but more so what I've seen is, let's say you want a PA that's handling the safety things, it would be going on Mandy, typing in the job posting for that, and the PA's description would be looking over the safety and making sure that the equipment's being sanitized and things of that nature. There are people that are using PAs. Alex, do you have any thoughts on PAs doubling as that? And specifically, do you think it's okay if, does the PA have to be solely for COVID things if it's going to be a PA taking care of that?
I think it depends on the size of the production. If they're going to be running out and getting coffee or doing other responsibilities, and it's not for 100 people or 200 people, it's very hard. If it's a 4-person shoot and that's the PA is, basically watching over 4 people, could be handled by them. It's also another tough question to answer. But
yeah,
I know it's a budget thing for a lot of places. I would love to send a doctor to every place that has an EMT, that's the safest it could be. But, people are not going to pay $200, $300 an hour for a doctor to sit on set. So they go with an EMT. The EMTs are a little bit more expensive than a PA. So I guess it depends on the shoot, how high profile, what the budget is, and things like that. I know that's a horrible way to make a decision, especially when it comes to people's safety, but that's, I think, the most honest answer I could give.
Marc, can you unmute
Yeah,
yourself?
I'm dealing with a real emergency. Someone is sick in our crew and they've tested positive for a shoot we've got coming up. So we are now in real time dealing with exactly what we're talking about and working out how we do it and what they've been doing. And this is where the contact tracing piece comes into play. So yeah, real time problems.
Do you want to out loud talk us through that process?
Well, I mean, I think I don't know what you guys were just discussing, but the contact tracing is another piece of the knowledge, which is really, really important in terms of the ability to, I don't know, there's a lot of sort of conspiracy theories to offer up this information. And I think, again, it's that responsibility. If you're coming back to work, there has to be a willingness, A, to tell the truth about your behaviors and do questionnaires, but also to, really think about your interactions that you've had, the trips that you've made. Everything counts. All of this stuff is important information, and it definitely feels like a rabbit hole once you sort of open that up. And what do you tell people to do in between a long shoot in terms of, are you allowed out? Can you go and get some food at night? So we're having to wrestle with all these things. And once the shoot starts, does that mean everyone's in quarantine? And the talent, I mean, we're having this conversation literally live with a big client of mine, like what, particularly in the world of big television shows, like that talent, traditionally, they like to do their own things when they're not on set. It's one thing the crew all agreeing to be staying in a motel, but are you going to get all the talent to do the same? I feel like there has to come a point where there's a democracy on set where the behaviors have to be matched by everyone.
A really, really good question that came in from Carter was, any advice if you go on set and don't think the crew is taking COVID prevention seriously? I'd like to throw that to Marc. Walk off. It's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, I mean, I would talk to whoever the senior producer is straight away. If you don't feel comfortable, particularly the person that booked you, I think you have, in a timely fashion, make your opinions very, very clear very quickly. I mean, it's just not to be messed around with. I mean, the stakes are so much higher than they've been with anything else, that I think if you feel uncomfortable with other people's behavior, you have to say something about it. Again, I'm not saying that anyone should decide whether they walk off or don't walk off, but I think you have to flag it to the producer and make a call about, is your safety being protected, and do you feel safe and secure in your work environment?
Yeah, I know for our Mandy users out there, sometimes the employers will write what they're doing, that they'll say that they're going to actually have like COVID safety things in place. They don't always list it, but I'll talk on the phone with the employer and they fully intend to do it. So even if it's not listed, doesn't mean it's not there. I would say that the safety begins before you ever come on set. If someone's interested in hiring you, you have every right to ask about what is being done, about if you will be maintaining social distancing? Will there be like division of zones? You have every right to ask those things. I think as a producer, it's important to make sure that your cast and crew is as safe as possible. What I've been talking to some other producers about is creating checklists that you can give to the different departments to make sure that each department is following certain procedures, or requesting a checklist from each department to make sure that every department knows what they're doing in terms of safety, and before getting on set, all of that can be addressed. I know, Marc, you have a lot of opinions about this, so I'm going to pass it to you for a sec to talk about. It's really easy to want to go back to set because, you know, that's how you make a living. And it's really tempting to just, we want to create, we want to be back on set, we want to make money again, but safety is number one. I see it as, well, if you risk your safety for one project, now you're not going to be able to do continuous ones, and you're now risking the entire industry being able to keep on working. So yeah, just what is your advice for people that are really want to go back to set and are unsure what to do?
I mean, I'll speak to that. I mean, I think that there seems to be a top-down feeling and energy about certain productions. You know, if the producers at the top of the chain are doing the right things and are genuinely wanting to do the right things, as opposed to it being optics or for the sake of it, I think my feeling is you'll start to get a sense of that. And of course, everyone's making a very, very difficult choice and a balance between possibly being reluctant about compromising your health versus I need to go and make some dollars. My spin on it is this, that I believe we should be grateful for the opportunity to go back to work. You look at people who are in live music or theatre, and they don't have that opportunity right now. So I think that we should be grateful to go back to work, but with that gratitude, I talk about it a lot, comes this responsibility, this self-responsibility and the responsibility to those around you. I mean, you sort of know my opinion on this. It's like I'm a stickler for all of it. The discipline is important. One of the things we say when we talk with clients is that we will cut no corners. We will compromise on nothing, but we hopefully do it with a smile. We don't want people to feel anxious and scared about returning to work. So the experience we've had is communicate with people, be friendly with people, have great social skills, be strict with the adherence to the protocols. And the goals for at the end of the day, and we've had this experience that talent, crew come up and go, thank you for keeping me safe today. I can't wait to work with you again. What we don't want people doing is, oh no, is that COVID safety dude coming to give me a hard time about my mask, and I can't wait to see the back end of him. It's, you know, it's a fine line, but as I said, I don't think one has to compromise with the safety standards to make it a friendlier experience.
And it's true. We're sprawling on 200 sets, and I personally go on a lot of the sets, and it's a horrible job being the compliance person. Hey, we're a pain in the ass, honestly. Like, put up your mask, wash your hands. People do get annoyed, especially because they're trying to do your job. And at the end of the day, they end up thanking you and saying, thank you. I do appreciate, sorry if I snapped at you. It's not my favorite job ever, being a compliance person. We are not compliance people. So it's something people do realize and appreciate, and they might snap at you at the beginning, but then afterwards they'll come over and say, thank you, I understand you were just doing your job. And usually if I'm doubling as a compliance person, if I'm a set medic, I'll make a speech in the beginning. I am going to be the biggest pain in your ass, but I'm sorry for cursing on Facebook, but I'll be friendly about it, but I'll be strict about it. And they're usually like, now they see me coming and they're like, oh my God, did I do something wrong? And I'm like, no, you're good. But like, they just walking by them, you'll see them put up their mask. Like, it's not even like you have to tell them, they'll just see you coming and remember to do it. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and there's ways to like, there's been people that are asking about, well, how do you handle extras? I think that's something we probably just need to find out in time, because there's not really a set answer. I know that using an extended lens that can capture depth to cheat the scene is something people are doing, which also helps with, if you don't have to have a bunch of lens that you're changing, it helps with not with the equipment, with sanitation, using less contamination between lenses. And a question that we had that I think I'll throw to Marc, because I know you have screenwriting experience, is how do you think the safety precautions are going to alter the types of scripts and productions being run? Do you think that
Yeah, I mean,
people...
I was working on a film just before COVID started, doing the location side of it, that was a two-header. It's just, you know, two talent in a massive mansion for the entire film, and there you have straight away a very COVID compliant film structure. So I think already we saw the reaction in the commercial world as well, and to the chat show world, where they did everything from home, and suddenly we're seeing commercials based upon how are you handling the pandemic at home. And we're hearing stories of like directors of photography who had cameras sent to them because they had like pretty and attractive young children that they could do everything themselves. So we've already seen creative being reverse engineered to meet the needs of the safety. And I can tell you now that two of the big TV shows I'm working on now are doing exactly that. They cannot shoot in their regular studios in New York, so they've decided to migrate to a different state, different place, and re-engineer the creative to suit the needs of keeping people safe. Massively reduced crew. That said, still not massively enough for my liking, but nonetheless, it's probably a third of the people that they would usually be using. So I think it's happening already right across the board, from indie right the way up to the big stuff as well.
Have you personally seen anything where while shooting, they just changed the script to make an actor feel more comfortable, for example, where a scene was supposed to be two people close to each other, and on the spot they decide we're gonna shift things? Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it from the script, but I've seen it certainly from the talent perspective. People saying, "I'm not comfortable doing that I've been asked to do." I mean, all the things that I've done in the COVID compliant world have been commercials, stills, and print. I'm yet to have done a TV or film project yet. We have stuff booked. So it's been a question. So for the most part, it's not necessarily always speaking talent, but it's just like, I don't feel comfortable being asked to be in close proximity with this other talent. Not comfortable. And then, you know, it goes up the chain. It's the director then asks the agency, who then asks the client, can we change this to be comfortable? And for the most part, I haven't seen anyone push back against that discomfort level. I've seen shots canned completely, because if it's integral to the idea of that shot then being in close proximity, then they have to do something else. I mean, to be honest with you, again, I feel that that's the responsible thing to do. The fact that people are prepared to make sacrifices about their creative ambitions tells me that they're trying to do the right thing.
Alex, have you seen anything like that?
Not really, honestly. I haven't, but I don't know the production side of things, so I don't know. I don't really watch it. I'm actually watching the production now. As I see them actually. I guess the person who's running it is on Zoom and watching the stills and the shoots. So it's pretty interesting to see that, and they're having conversations live over Zoom. So
yeah,
but
it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Technology, like a director coming in Zoom to lead the project.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you both for taking the time to be a part of this while working on other projects. I know that you're both either on set or I know Alex is on set right now.
I am. I'm sorry.
Appreciate it very much. Marc, so now if someone's sick, I know you're still kind of figuring it out, but because a lot of people want to know, what do you do now? Are you for now having like everyone?
I am super sorry, but I know we have 5 more minutes. I need to jump. I am so sorry.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you
for having me. Bye. Bye. I apologize.
I mean, we have a checklist of protocols that we now have to go through because of this. So we will diligently go through it. We'll do the contact tracing piece. We'll sit down with production and management. We'll find out where that person was. I mean, this is not a live set at the moment. These are just crew members that were supposed to be on set with us. So I don't feel like the people that were on the crew and the talent have been affected directly, but that doesn't mean it's not a problem for where we're going to plan our shoot. And so, you know, it's going to be a busy few hours. And I mean, that's half the point right now. It's so much of this is a new frontier for so many people. I think everyone's wrestling with it and trying to do the right thing. And as I said, much as New York are very proud about we're open up for business, there's a part of me that thinks, well, we're not quite open. I'll give you another example of that. So we did it today, this morning, we have a live job in Central Park today. And we had all the permissions that we would usually get. We had everything lined up. And then 2 days ago, the city, for absolutely justified reasons, decided they wouldn't issue permits for any motorhomes and for any vehicles. So I have 45 people in Central Park that need to go to the bathroom, that need to be fed, that need to be protected from the 90-degree heat. And it's a real problem. And of course, the client at that point, when you're 48 hours away, doesn't care about, doesn't want to know about that. It's like, how are we going to solve the problem? And everyone's just scrabbling around trying to do the right thing. And that point about people being on edge and tired, it makes people snap. It's like we're operating in a very, very tense environment. And, you know, I'm not sure that that's going to change anytime soon. I don't have the answer to that. I mean, other than try and get some more sleep, but it just seems to be a bit impossible right now.
Yeah, a question that came in from Simon that I feel like I know how you're going to answer, but he said he's essentially working on a zero budget indie. What are practical steps that someone in that situation can take to be as COVID compliant as possible if they can't afford testing equipment?
I mean, if you are, for example, working in New York City, there are really, really good resources issued by the film commissioner here, which you can find online. So I would strongly suggest whichever city you're in, one would hope that that's been done with very clear directives, how you do the signage, how we do the basic stuff that we know about, the PPE, and follow whatever the phase openings are and whatever the sort of mandated permissions that the city has granted and given. You know, we all know we work in the creative industry, and that can be a great thing or a bad thing. And I say that in the sense that we're always known, particularly in the indie world, about solving problems on the fly. Now, there's a danger in that. Yes, we should still want to be creative and get what we want, but making impulsive and rash decisions right now has a greater risk to it than before. So I always say planning. Look, the more we can plan the shot list, I know that in certain types that you don't want the planning, you want the spontaneity, but you can still plan the production, even if you're trying to capture something creative that's a bit more improvised. You know, making sure you've done your research, making sure you have PPE, making sure you've spoken to people about the behaviors, and you know, just finding decent, reliable local sources of information and finding out what those state laws are or city laws are and what the protocols have been advised.
Yeah, it's great advice. Sorry, I'm like trying to keep up with all the comments. See if any stick out. I feel like we've answered a lot of them. Okay, so I know your company does a lot of the cross safety to make a seamless experience. So something that a lot of people don't think about is transportation, that if you go into an Uber or something like that, you're also now opening up the possibility of bringing something on set. The idea that I kind of thought of, but want your thoughts of, is maybe having someone specifically designated on your project that they are the driver. You rent a van that you have completely sanitized every single day, and they just have to do pickups of everyone if you're not driving yourself to set. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah,
have you seen something like that happening?
Yeah, that's part of this planning piece, isn't it? That we can't be in a situation where we haven't seen these protocols in effect ourselves. And what I mean by that is, you know, if someone says, "Oh, I've got a clean car, I'll pick you up in a moment," it's not good enough. So anytime we're going to a location, we're doing a job tomorrow whereby the location assures me that they've kept a clean house, and it's like, I can't rely on that. It would be unfair. We are going to clean it ourselves. I've seen it with my own eyes. I know I can look around to the producer and say, this has been cleaned for sure. And the same with transport. We need to know, where has that car been? Who else has been in that car? Particularly with Ubers and taxis being so part of our contemporary culture. That is a big risk point for any production, and it's a problem. And again, there's a budget issue, because what ideally you want people to self-drive in individual, traveling individually to set. But if you've got 45, 50 people, where do you put the cars? So it's in real time, we're trying to juggle it and weigh that up as to how we do it.
Yeah, I know that there's also a lot of location specific things being done. I know you have people tuning in from all over. The regulations that are being recommended from the UK to the US to Canada, all different. I'm located in the US, so that's my knowledge. I know state to state is very different. Like I know Georgia is a state that's been doing a lot of things for film, and New York and states of that sort. Right now, I know a lot of people want to go back on set, but it is a lot about safety and making sure that you're safe. We've had some questions about sanitation of equipment itself. I don't know if that's something that you have the expertise in. Yeah, you can answer that.
I mean, we're trying to create as many solutions to that, because obviously certain surfaces and certain equipment, you can't just spray liquid disinfectant on everything. So we do a multifaceted approach to that. We have electrostatic sprayers, we have traditional wipes, we have the UVC medical grade lights as well. And in particular for electronic equipment, that is the best thing that we can do. We'll find a cleaning area with V-flats, or in a private room, you have to wear special glasses for them, because you can have eye damage. You can have skin cancer, things. And that also leads into the other question about what are we doing to clean, and what are the protocols for cleaning versus what are the public health implications of that? It's one thing, hey, we've got no virus in this building, but if people are going to get sick because of the chemicals that you're using, because they're on set for the next 30 days, that is also an issue. So again, there's a lot of diligence. There's a lot of looking into the warnings and how you use certain chemicals, making sure they're all compliant, and we work within the laws and the EPA and all these places that will give you information about how you handle these. And again, there's training to be had in every country, how you deal with hazardous chemicals. And once you open up Pandora's box to try and do the right thing, it opens up yet another box. And we're trying very, very hard to do that. And again, at the moment, we're deferring to experts. So we have a chemical expert, the guy that was involved in formulating one of the leading brands of wipes in this country. So please tell us, is this a chemical safe? What's the dilution rate? How long after we do a deep clean in an interior can we go in there and safely work? It's all very important stuff. As I said, for the equipment stuff, if people are wondering about cameras and lights, then to me at the moment, wipes are great, but the UVC light is absolutely fantastic. But again, there's a time component to that too.
Just for anyone that needs to hop off, before we wrap up, I want to give some ways of how you can contact both of our speakers today. With Alex, his website is paradoxworldwide.com. His company name is in the description of all the Facebook Live stuff, so paradoxworldwide.com. For Marc, his email address for the Safe Production Services is Marc, M-A-R-C, at safeproductionservices.com. He said that feel free to reach out to him if you're looking to hire someone. And even if you're not located in New York, it's not like both of our speakers, they have resources to other locations. I know Paradox is a worldwide company. It's something where we can only really speak on our territory because everything's so different. But I know you're dealing with remote shoots also, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment we're working all across America, which is challenging itself with the time changes and stuff like that. And as you say, the state by state, town by town differences in the protocols. But we're doing our best. I mean, and again, if people want to reach out, even if you don't have the budget for it, if I have the time and the bandwidth and I can offer anything or point you in the direction of a resource, I'm happy to do that. And of course, there's always Mandy.com. There's plenty of people on that could help you out and offer you some advice as well. I need to go, guys, and solve my problem with a sick crew member. So I need to bounce.
Okay. Best of luck with that. Thank you so much for taking the time on this call.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess, for making this happen. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Good luck.
Everyone. Bye.